think we can give other candidates enough time to show up. We're gonna go live. Are you already live? Okay. My name is Mike Romaine. I'm gonna be moderating this forum, which was brought to you in part by Westchester Proviso Township. Randall should be around here somewhere. Randall McFarland, the co-founder of the group, the nonprofit. Ms. Connie, prominent member of the nonprofit. This forum is going to be live streamed on Westchester Proviso Township's page. In addition to Proviso Votes 2023, which is an initiative I started last month to raise awareness about voter engagement and outreach in Proviso Township. I am going to read the ground rules now, just to give a sense of how this is going to flow. So every candidate running for the district was invited to this event today. If a slate or candidate cannot attend, they were allowed to have a representative make an opening statement. That representative, however, may not participate in the question and answer session. Time will be kept by a volunteer who will hold up a red sign signaling stop. We're not going to use 15 seconds here because that's just too much to my timekeeper is not a professional timekeeper. She's my sister. Great job. We're going to give you all some flexibility, even if the full range of candidates come. So we just ask that you be respectful of time limits. There will be an alarm that does go off on her computer, signaling that you're out of time. So we just ask that you respect that. I know that on the ground rules that I emailed you all, it said that you'll each have 2 minutes for opening statements. I'm going to ask if you allow me to cut that to 1 minute, because if all of the candidates do come, that's a total of 36 minutes for opening and closing statements. That's way too long. We're here until 9 o'clock. So if we could just have 1 minute of opening statement and 1 minute of closing statement, so that we can answer as many of, or I can pose to you as many of their questions as possible. That would be great. And so you'll be given a range of time for questions depending on how long they may take, or I suspect they may take to answer, from 30 seconds to a minute. Following time allotted, you'll be given time, once all questions are answered, you'll be allowed time to make that 1 minute closing statement. So we're going to start for opening statements on this side going left, and then for closing statements on this side going right. Okay. I believe that's it. We just ask that all candidates be respectful toward each other, and that the audience please refrain from applause or boisterous reactions or responses, even if you are passionate about something that comes up. So, sure. Pardon me?
How many questions?
You know what? That's something that I never control for. The last one I got a ton. I'm just going to try to get through as many of these as possible. Right now, there are about close to 10 so far, and I have some prepared questions. So we'll see how many we get. And some of them may be redundant, so there may be multiple questions that ask the same question, essentially. So, but I'll be sifting through them as we go. It closes at 8, actually, yeah, so we really got to hurry up. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. So we can start opening statements from this side and go to the left, and you'll each get 1 minute.
Good evening, my name is Jon Kubricht. I am running with Claudia and Medina on Proviso Excels. My main thing is I'm a business and economics major in college. My focus is accounting and finance, and I really want to delve into the budget and get the spending of 28% per student right now back up to the 45 to 48%, and then also give the teachers the appreciation and the contracts they deserve, just to better everything for our kids. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to take the whole minute up.
Oh. I thought he thought it was, we had to go 30 seconds and 30 seconds, so. Good evening, everyone. Michael, thank you for having this forum for all of us. And thank you for all of the people that are here that are engaged in this District 209 race, because it's an important one. My name is Claudia Medina. I am a current sitting board member. I'm an educator. I own a small business as well, a school. I also, I'm a teacher trainer, and I have been a proponent and an advocate for immigrant rights, for human rights, and I was the only board member to sit during the strike next to the teachers to ensure that they got a fair contract. My focus is on education. Our educational quality has gone down. We have a huge class size now of 35 students per class. Our education budget has plummeted, only investing 29% of the budget. 1 minute is not enough. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Ocampo. I'm going to stand up because I'm short, so that you all can see me. So I am a husband, a father of 3 bilingual children. I actually live in Westchester, down the street on Dorchester and Kensington, so if you ever get mad, you know where to find me. I have been a servant leader in Westchester. I'm actually a Cub Scout den leader. I have a den meeting actually tomorrow to prep after this. And I have a bachelor's in business econ from Marquette University, master's in information systems management from Keller Graduate School. And I'm a data engineer by profession for Energizer. So next time you buy your batteries, get those Energizer brand batteries. And the reason why I'm running is because I resonate with the students. Many of the families have never gone to college. Many of the families don't know what the future holds for them. I was one of those. Growing up as a son of immigrant parents, I didn't know what the next step was.
I know.
Now it's on?
Yes, it's hot.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Barbahen. I am a lifelong Forest Park resident. I actually went to public school in Forest Park from preschool all the way through 8th grade. I am a very involved and engaged community member, and most importantly, I'm a mother. I have 4 children. My oldest is a senior at Proviso East High School, and he's ready to graduate. June 10th, cannot come fast enough for him. And I'm running because I have seen the peaks and the valleys that our underperforming schools have caused and created in our community. And I've seen how it affects our children, all of our children, and all of our townships. I've also really witnessed the positive impact that having strong leadership and good leadership in place can have on our kids. When we first started at Proviso East in 2019, the culture and the climate and the respect was immense. It was energetic and it was energizing. We have seen a lot of devastation in the last 2.5 years, and I want to repair that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sandra Hixson. I am a wife, mother, grandmother, and educator. I actually stopped working in School District 209 in September of last year. I'm running for transparency, accountability, and fiduciary responsibility. And additionally, I am a former school board member of School District 88.
Thank you. We will head right into questions, the first of which, and this question will be a minute each. It is addressing school safety in light of the most recent school shooting massacre that happened in this country today in Nashville. One, if we could take like 20 seconds for a moment of silence for what happened there, and then I'll ask the first question regarding public safety. Thank you. With respect to public safety, what is your definition of public safety in a public school? And what are some of your ideas for shoring up public safety throughout Proviso Township High School, District 209? And let's start over here with David.
So for me, public safety is an environment where not only students, but individuals, teachers, administration, everyone can safely go to school or go to work and return home that day. Now, some of the ideas that we have for improving safety within our schools include more personnel that are adequately trained to respond to the situation. So that would include communicating with educators, communicating with administrators, and most importantly, being up to date with drills. If you aren't aware, we haven't had an active shooter drill at the schools. So how can we prepare for those situations if we don't? How can we be ready for those situations if we haven't prepared enough? Thank you.
So safety and prevention of violence in schools is one of the top priorities for Sandra, David, and I. And you really have to take a multi-pronged approach to addressing it. First, we need adequate security and staffing in our buildings. We also need adequate social workers because a lot of our school violence is directly related to mental health. So if we are not addressing our mental health, we are not going to be fully addressing our safety and violence as well. We also need to have board policies that include restorative justice, that have victim circles, that have family parenting and counseling. We need to have the staff, teachers, anybody that's in our buildings trained adequately in de-escalation techniques. We have to have the trainings, like David said. And we also have to give our students clear, concise, and consistent expectations of behavior. So once we restore kind of restorative justice practices within our buildings, we then need everybody to follow.
Claudia.
Our staffing at District 209 has been a huge issue. The first thing that we need to do is restore security staffing, both for the cafeteria, for the halls, for the entrances. We need to have, as they've mentioned, and we've talked in other forums, drills to ensure that there's safety, so that safety is paramount and the students are aware of what to do in case of an emergency. We also need to ensure that we have counselors. We don't have enough counselors to help the students with mental health. We don't have enough counselors to help the children with what to do with their future. And we also need to have, I believe, I can't remember what they're called. I'm thinking of the word in Spanish, forgive me. But we do need to return deans. Deans used to address the discipline. They used to address the academics. They used to help the students target plans for improvement, and we no longer have the deans. So the return of deans, I believe, is paramount to helping with security and safety with the children.
The children need to feel comfortable going to school, and at this point, the lack of security guards, safety staff in the hallways, the anxiety of going through the security lines, which are extremely long, really hurt the level of comfort the students are having. They don't feel like they have a place that they can go if they do have an issue, and adequately, whether it's a mental health issue or a safety, like for their physical safety. With the lowering number of social workers, any of the fighting going on doesn't get addressed. They don't get there's no discipline for, the kids that are basically out of control at this point with these big fights. So if we can build up the level of comfort that the kids have with adequate staffing, I think it would help substantially. Bye-bye.
As David and Jenny said, it truly is about security. Also, Ms. Medina made a comment about counselors. Yes, we do need more counselors. Yes, we do need more deans. However, we need that third piece. We need mental health counselors in all 3 schools. Are we really going to add more responsibility onto our teachers and security? Because they're not trained to give an assessment. They don't know when, if a student every day comes in all black and starts acting, abnormal, what to do. So therefore, we do need some mental health counselors in a school. We need higher trained security and probably a little bit more police. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is about conduct on the board. Some of these questions they're prefaced with a lot of information that and some assumptions that may or may not be true or whatever. So I'm going to try to read them as they are written, but this is not coming from me. This question as it's written. This one, since it flows into another one, I'm going to try to combine these and allow you all as much time to unpack it. So the first one, Proviso School District 209 has seen its share of unprofessional conduct by the current administration. At a recent parade, a candidate for the board was seen physically confronting a female teacher who was supporting a different slate of candidates. How do you address unprofessional-like conduct by the board and/or administration if elected or re-elected? And then another one feeding into that question is with respect to what this person says is allegedly aggressive behavior by the male administration. What is your plan for rebuilding positive and constructive conversations with teachers who choose to work in the district? So this is behavior from administrators toward teachers in one aspect, and behavior between board members and professional conduct among board members and or administrators. Secondly, I'll give each slate, if that's okay, 3 minutes to answer that so that we can be as efficient as possible. And so if somebody from this slate wants to answer and somebody from that slate wants to answer, you all can go first, Excel, and then you all next. Excel.
You want us to take it first?
Mm-hmm.
The first part of the question I think is really important. It was about an event that happened at a parade, and it was about 2 volunteers that were being disruptive during the parade. And I will take, as a parent, issue with that question. The 2 children were, one was 19 and one was 17, and their teachers were part of that group. And they were trying to speak to one of their, get their attention and goofing off, and they got out of control. Later, a confrontation happened. Only the last 16 seconds of that confrontation was showed. The whole way that it played out was not showed, and it has been misrepresented the whole time. I think that both parties were upset, and I think that the tone was inappropriate, and my comment to it was stop responding, because I think it was completely unacceptable on both sides. As far as conduct for the board, I think that we need to implement the standards and the conduct for the board that are currently in place, and we need to establish a vision of working protocols to ensure that we all have agreements of conduct and of wording, because as somebody who has experienced a numerous amount of either hostile physical threats and verbal threats, I can tell you that it is not something pleasant when somebody gets in your face and puts an elbow in your face. It is an awful thing. It's scary. And that type of intimidation shouldn't exist for anyone. So I really believe that the best thing that we can do is have a board retreat, a special meeting where we discuss a vision for the board, a vision for conduct, a vision for communication, and that we all abide by it and we agree to it. I think as long as that there is hostile communication with undertones that are divisive, we all lose, because what it's doing is it's dividing our communities, it's dividing our school, and the only thing that it's brought is hostility, and the only thing that it's brought is mistrust of the board and ineffective leadership. And I really look forward to having a positive leadership, building bridges, and ensuring that we can all speak together, talk together about difficult issues, because in diversity of opinion is that we all win. If we only have one group that is leading and doing everything without the input from other communities and other people, I think we all lose. There should be no control on the board. There should be diversified representation to ensure that all of us are represented, all of us have a voice, and we can make decisions that are community-oriented, representing every single one of the people that in our communities to best serve and build a future together. Thank you.
Thank you. No man should ever raise his hand or touch another woman without consent, regardless of the words that were spoken. If we cannot control our actions, we do not have a role in a leadership position in a school. Sandra will talk to us about respect on the board.
Jenny, David, and I, we are role models. We carry ourselves in such a way that our families and friends know exactly who we are at all times and all places. It is about being civil. You can't expect respect when you disrespect. We are so much better than what we have seen. And yes, I may not have seen the whole video, and clearly I was not there. However, the pushback from it was horrible. As Jenny said, men, please don't raise your hand at anyone's wife or mother or sister. It's not acceptable. It is about being civil and being respectful. That's what we are. The students are looking for us as role models. Let's act like it.
Thank you. We have the most questions, audience-generated questions, about the superintendent. One asks, what do each of you think of the Superintendent Henderson's performance? How will the board, you if elected on the board, work to hold superintendents, whoever they are, accountable? And how will you work to hold other members of the administration accountable? And this will be 2 minutes. You allocate 2 minutes each for each side, once again, and you can split it up 1 minute, however you want to divvy it up, but 2 minutes each per slate. And you guys can go first, and you all next.
All right. So as a data engineer, I'm all about metrics. And I can say objectively, Mr. Henderson, or Dr. Henderson, has not been evaluated. Although it is a state mandate to evaluate the superintendent annually. He's been there 2.5 years and we have yet to evaluate him. But the first thing that needs to happen is establish the metrics by which we can evaluate him. Not only him, but future superintendents. We need to establish and make that available, transparent to the community, so that you all know what we are doing, so that you can also hold us accountable. These metrics need to be data-driven and time-specific, right? For example, graduation rates. Graduation rates need to rise by X% over the next wide number of years. Something like that, something concrete that we can accurately measure and report on. And Jenny would like to chime in.
And speaking specifically to evaluating his performance, one of the key components of the superintendent's contract is communication. And as a parent in this school right now, the communication has suffered for the last 2.5 years. All engagement opportunities, so a superintendent's parent advisory council, those were stopped from the superintendent, so there are no opportunities for parents to engage directly with their superintendent. Yes, his cell phone number is posted. Yes, you can email him, but if you get a response, I would love to talk to you, because I could probably fit on one hand how many times I've heard that a parent got a response. So, speaking directly to that aspect of his contract, he's not performing. So there should be an evaluation, and there should have been one before he received 2 additional contracts.
The superintendent put out a report with all of his goals. The goals were aligned to all of the points in his contract, and that is his evaluation tool. When you look at every single one of the points and the format that is very clear of what each goal, there are 2 main goals and a third goal, and there are sub-points underneath each one of those goals, and it's up on the web. That is actually the superintendent evaluation. There was one evaluation done, and the then board president shut it down. But without an evaluation, there's no way for the board to do anything, because we need to be data-driven, we need to make sure that he's following his goals, and we need to keep him accountable. As long as we have a board majority that does not want to keep him accountable and who does not call for the evaluation, the board can't do anything. As far as any of the other employees in the district, the only employee that is overseen by the district, by the board, is the superintendent. That is it. So we can't do anything about any other employee, because that would be what they call stepping onto the dance floor. How would we keep him accountable? Well, the first thing you need to do is follow policy. I know that the superintendent has held teachers accountable for for false accusations, whereas the superintendent has not been held accountable for his policy violations. So I think it's imperative for the board to follow policy, to know the policy, to ensure that he's held accountable for the policy, and if in violation of his contract or any board policy, we need to act immediately and responsibly. And that is how we should act moving forward. And hopefully it would be in teamwork, where we would all agree that board policy is imperative to be followed, and that together we would all make sure that the superintendent is held accountable to it.
This is with respect to within the building. One person asks, can any of you describe an average day for a high school student from opening to the closing bell? What are the roadblocks that students have to deal with, and what is, I guess, what is your strategy for addressing those roadblocks? Each of you will have a minute each to answer the question. And we can start with Jenny, and then next John, David, Claudia, and Ms. Jenny.
That's a very good question. So as a parent, I've taken the opportunity to do Bring Your Parent to School Day. It's held twice a year, so I've been there 8 times, except for during 2020, it was all remote, which was not as much fun. So every time I get in the building and I walk the halls, I do the classes with my students, I eat the cafeteria food that they eat, and I get to know the teachers and the atmosphere and the environment. And I can tell you, in 2019, the day-to-day was happy. Everybody was filled with respect. The atmosphere was energetic. The last couple of Bring Your Parent to School days have been rough. There's sometimes not enough seating for the kids, let alone the parents. I'm happy to sit in the back while the kids actually need desks to learn on. I've also gotten to see some of the books or lack of books. There are several classes that do not have books, and they also do not have online resources, so our students with IEPs and 504 plans do not have the resources they need.
I think currently the biggest issue students have during the day is actually knowing if and when they are going to get to school, and if and when they are going to be able to go home from school. I think the bus situation, with students still waiting a half hour to an hour, creates so many unknown variables. Are they going to get to school on time to go through security? Are they going to have to wait outside in the rain for an hour before they're taken home? I think that is probably the biggest issue surrounding the school day, just that anxiety and that unknown variable.
I live vicariously through Jenny's experiences. My oldest is 9, and so for the roadblocks, from what we've seen on social media and just heard from students themselves, is issues with transportation, right? It's very spotty. Are the students even getting on a bus? The bus never arrives sometimes. Long wait times just getting into the school, which kind of alludes to the issues with safety. We've heard of issues where security just allows students in simply so that the line's shortened quickly. That's a major issue. And nutrition, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the food that our students consume. It's certainly not as luxurious as a Gibson steak, but it is atrocious. To be honest, I don't think my dog would enjoy eating it. And yet we are feeding our students this food. How do we expect them to perform? Thank you.
Did you want Sandra to go?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I've been in that building starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, 2019, when the students were thriving. We were all together. I was also in that building September 18, 2022, when students had 4 and 5 IDs, wrong ID numbers, no bus, walking up and down the hallway. I actually had students say to me, Ms. Hixson, I am afraid to eat lunch. May I stay with you? There are teachers in this room that are bobbing their heads because they know we, out of our pockets, would take and feed our students.
You can keep the mic up because you'll go first. This next question, and this is and then we'll just go from left to right. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Claudia. Sorry about that.
There are several roadblocks that I think that our students have. Transportation, as has been mentioned, security, just getting into the building, being checked out. But let's talk about other things that they're missing. The teachers' budgets have not been funded. The superintendent did not fund the teachers' budgets, and therefore crucial things for them to have a successful day, like books, or the food for the culinary program, or the metal for the metalworking program, or several budgets for I don't know, for field trips, for so many things were not funded. So they did not have the opportunity to have many of the things that our teachers do have to offer, because our school, despite what everybody thinks, our school does serve their children with heart. The teachers have gone out of their way for their students. They do everything they possibly can, but without the right resources, without funding for the programs that are necessary, it is impossible for the teachers and the kids to have a good day.
Thank you. Sorry again. This is also pertaining to an in-school situation. And I'm going to allow 30 seconds for each of you to answer. Imagine that you are on the board. You already are, Ms. Medina. You get a lot of complaints coming from students and staff, and this is one of them. 30 seconds, what's your response in this situation if you're presented with this problem? And the problem is, according to sources, the auto tech programs at both schools are lacking a lot of stuff. Primer, they don't even have a sufficient amount of oil for oil changes. They have to recycle that. 30 seconds, and you can go from left to right. So you'll be first, and John, you'll be last. How do you respond to a need like this?
We have to look at the budget, and we need to put some money aside for those. We have to. It's important. And some of our students are going to, not everyone's going to go to college, but some of our students will. I'm hoping the vast majority of them will. And so we need to put money aside.
You had 30 seconds.
That's okay. It's okay.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure you understood.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
30 seconds.
So I think with that problem, there's multiple other problems. So that's not the only problem. The biggest problem is that we only spend 29% on instruction. So 29 cents of every dollar is all that we're spending on student instruction. That includes funding our classrooms. I've been in that automotive department. There are way too many kids to even be able to safely change a tire or change oil and be able to learn. So we have to look at our budget and increase our instructional spending.
As my colleagues have already alluded, yes, addressing those issues, looking at the budget, bridge that gap between student spend and, bridge the gap between how much we spend on students. For example, our neighboring districts spend 45 to 55% respectively, so Morton and Lyons Township, that's how much they spend on their students, and we're spending only 29%, so we need to reevaluate the budget. Thank you.
Funding for all these programs is in our budget. We do budget for it, and it's in there. The thing is, it's an administrative choice. And the administration has chosen not to disperse the money. So there's actually grants that several of the teachers have gotten. Like, I know one of the teachers got $25,000 for the metal supplies for the CTE program. And it took 8 months for her to get the money, even though the money was in the district. So we need to actually hold the superintendent accountable to ensure that he releases the funds so that all of the teachers can have the money that they need for their programs.
I believe one of the big issues with this is the CFO has come and gone, come and gone, come and gone, and I guess currently the Cedric Lewis is gone again. There's no mechanism to release the funds that are there if the CFO continues to disappear. So I think having a CFO who knows what he or she is doing and actually takes care of the school and chooses to do what is right and not necessarily what he's being told to do.
We can stay on that topic. Now, if you have the mic, you can start from your side and then we can go down. And you'll each have 30 seconds to answer this. You talked about the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, being gone. Can you address some of the positions that you feel are needed that are not currently being staffed, and what ideas do you have to make sure that the administration is staffed in a way that supports the district and flows down to the student?
Well, from a financial perspective, you need a good CFO, but you also need a really good controller, someone who's daily monitoring the money going in and out of the district's bank accounts. There's not been a forensic audit, let alone audit accepted by auditors done, I believe now almost 18 or 19 months. So to get a firm in there to do a legitimate audit that's accepted by general accepted accounting practices, that would be one of the most important things to do at this point.
When Dr. Henderson started, he did a reevaluation of the administration and changed the administrative duties. Of utmost concern was that he used Title I monies that was supposed to be for student services and funding the student services, and has used them so that he uses 30 and 50% of the salaries are being paid out of Title I money. So we need to make sure that we're allocating Title I money to students, because those are federal funds that are supposed to be going towards students. We need to reevaluate the pyramid, which he did for the administration, to ensure that he returns the consolidated jobs that he put out, which provide enough services for our students.
The staffing needs to be student-centric. We need more educators, we need more counselors, mental health, social services, security. One thing is, being an IT professional, when I heard about how they gutted the IT services, it was just mind-boggling. Thinking. We have one IT person, I believe, at each building. How can you manage hardware, software requirements with just one person? In the IT world, that is known as a central point of failure.
Like David said, we need to have student-focused and student-centered staff and hiring. I do think we need to bring back the dean structure that was removed. Deans handle a lot of the violence and prevention and restorative justice that we really need to see come back to our schools. We need more social workers. We need our counselors because mental health, our kids really, really need us there. And we can't keep loading on more and more responsibilities to our teachers. So we need student-centered hiring practices.
As Jean Davis said, students first, student focus. But for me, it is human resources. We need to find out what is going on with our human resources and our CFO. Those are the two major issues that I have right now. It is all about human resources and the CFO and our students.
Thank you. Another question is about the budget process. Schools should operate like any other business. Can a budget be set? Can there be accountability established? Each of you will get a minute to answer this question. Starting with Claudia, David, John, Janine, and then Jenny, because Janine, you've gone last few times. I don't want you to think
It's in the back.
I'm sorry, I'm confusing you with the dog. This makes sense. Sure. The school board should operate like any other business. Can a budget be set? Can there be accountability established? And you'll get 1 minute each.
You want me to start? The budget is set by the superintendent based on a vision. So we need to make sure that we have a vision where we create a 5-year financial plan with certain goals in mind to ensure that we make the student focus within the budget. And then the superintendent can execute the budget. So that's the process under which we do it. So we have a special meeting. We sit down and we look at what are the different focuses that we want to have for the district. The board sets the tone for the superintendent's work, and then the superintendent puts out the budget. But right now the 5-year financial plan that was put out, that we were required to have by the financial oversight panel that we had, has not been followed. Not the administrative salaries, not the goals that we needed to meet to keep our credit standing, and several of those things are highly concerning in regard to the budget. The budget from the moment Superintendent Henderson started was in a deficit, and 3 months prior, we had no deficit. We saw how some monies were changed in different funds, and when questioned, he couldn't give us any answers. So we need to know why money shifts from one fund to another so that we can actually be accountable in regards to the budget.
Thanks.
I believe that the community should understand that at least 60% of your property tax goes toward funding the schools. Okay, that is the primary source of revenue. When thinking about it as a business, it is a primary source of revenue for the schools. So when we start understanding that someone like Dr. Henderson mismanaging the funds and setting the budget, that can be a very dangerous situation. As an IT professional, in order to maintain accountability, I would like to utilize tools such as machine learning and artificial intelligence to make sure that he is held accountable. You can train a model to find anomalies in spending and then report on those much more easily than a human could. Thank you.
Ms. Hixson.
With a school budget, whoever, and I do mean whoever by David, Jenny, and I, we would have to look at it, look at our budget, and then assess from that point what we're going to do. I probably messed up the question. Could you repeat that
Sure.
question one more time?
Sure. They just they asked what the school board should operate like any other business. Can a budget be set, and can there be accountability
Yes,
established?
it can be set, and Mrs. Medina was correct. It is set by the superintendent, and so we just have to work within the budget.
John, and then Jim.
So after the 5-year plan has been set, that sort of gives us the outline for our budgets each year. And as we're looking at the budget each year, we need to be looking at ensuring that the best education possible is being given to the students. And everything that has gone into that budget, we can analyze, month to date, year to date, And if the educational opportunities are not presenting themselves enough to the students, we can modify those budgets and move funds from one area to another to ensure that the education they deserve is given to them.
Thank you. Judy.
The superintendent sets the budget, but the board approves it, and the board is the one who keeps the superintendent accountable for sticking within that budget. So we have to have accountability on behalf of the board. So that means having a board majority that is willing to keep and hold the superintendent accountable. I would expect to see a budget that prioritizes student success and prioritizes making sure that we have instructional spending that is appropriate and brings us closer to the state average. Right now, we are well below state average on instructional spending. So as a board, I think Sandra, David, and I would all expect to see that prioritized in student success, teachers, classrooms, and then hold the superintendent accountable for the budget that we approve.
Thank you. I'm going to try to combine these next questions. As all of you know, last year there was a strike in the district that lasted close to a month. And that led to some tension between teachers and administrators. These questions pertain to, in part, to that tension. The first is, how will teachers be supported and brought up to speed with the latest teaching methods that include mental health ideologies? The second is, with teacher administration working relationships at a low, what is the plan to build a structure that supports constructive conversation without penalty? So if each of you can speak about, what you understand to be the teacher admin working relationship. If you could be as specific as possible about if you know of a culture of penalty-based discipline, if there are instances you know of, if you could point those out. And then some ideas that you have about supporting teachers to bring them up to speed with the latest and best teaching methods. I'll give each of you 1 minute to answer. And David, you can start first. Ms. Hixson second. Claudia, Jon, and then Jen.
So with respect to how will teachers be supported, including their mental health, so right now, teachers, educators are overwhelmed, right? We hear about students, the average class size being 35 students per class. We hear about those retaliatory attacks, the toxic work culture. It also, the change starts from above, right? It starts with a new board, and it starts with changing the culture so that it's conducive to learning and to growing. We want an area where teachers can expect to start their career at Proviso and not dread coming to work. Right? We want to encourage them to grow. So, and now with regards to constructive conversations without penalty, again, that starts at the board. And that also includes holding the superintendent accountable, because we cannot, the board majority allows the superintendent to do whatever he likes, and we need to stop that practice.
Thank you.
Currently, from my understanding, is the superintendent and the administration basically set whatever programs the teachers are going to use and basically say, here's the program, you're on your own, use it. And there's been no input from the teachers, no recommendations from the teachers as to what the kids actually need. You can't expect teachers to be able to effectively teach if they're just given something, no support, and there's no basically buy-in on their part, no acceptance, no excitement, and giving them stuff that's even below the skill level of their students is demoralizing to the students. So I feel like if the teachers are driving the resources we're actually going out and buying for the students, we're going to have a much better education for the students, and the teachers are going to be more willing to work with the administration and vice versa.
I need to correct something. So, this teachers are not out a month. But more importantly, they are in a hostile working environment right now. So anything that they say or do they will be retaliated against. Basically, their constitutional rights are being violated. That's not right. So for us, David, Jenny, and I, we want to restore trust. We want the community to know that we are going to work with the parents and teachers and students and administrators and whoever the superintendent is. But coming to work in a hostile working environment, that's not right.
Thank you. Who's next? I think you said Claudia and then
A few years back, we did something which was an equity study where we included parents, teachers, students, community members, and we did an equity study to see where the biggest issues were in the district. And this is crucial to do it again, so that everybody has buy-in. And the way that we make sure that we address what is going on is to first address the hostility and the trauma that the teachers have. So that means supports. Supports look like professional development that is targeted to the specific class that the teacher is actually teaching. For example, if you're a math teacher, you shouldn't be going just to a social emotional learning, but you may need to do like new math styles, new learning styles. Same thing with history, social studies, so that there's buy-in. And I think that happens if there is an advisory board to the board, comprised of community members, teachers, and students, which was in our equity study. And this allows the board to know whether or not we are enacting policies and programs that are aligned with the needs of the students and the teachers.
Thank you.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah. So it was about, if I remember it, teacher, admin, working relationships at alone. What is the plan to build a structure that supports constructive conversation without penalty? How will teachers be supported to be brought up to speed with respect to the latest teaching methods as well?
Thank you. First of all, our relationships have to be rebuilt. There's no relationships that have not been burnt. It's important for that to start at the top with respect and collaboration. Right now, our teachers are kind of on an island all by themselves, doing what they can for each classroom. We have no committees, from what I know, we don't have any chairs for subject matters. So our teachers need collaborative efforts as well. They need to have time to collaborate with each other, and they have to have someone who will listen to them in administration, that will provide them the resources they need. And I think the teachers need to be the ones that answer the question of what their needs are and how they need to be supported and professionally developed.
Thank you. This is 30 seconds for each of them. And Jenny, you can go first. Followed by Claudia, David, Ms. Hixson, and John. Could we have a show of hands on who is... Oh, I'm sorry. This is the wrong question. I didn't mean to ask that yet. Sorry about that. Oh, here it is. Are you committed to your students, if you have them, for your kids to attend these schools that you want to govern? Are you committed to your students, if you have them, for your kids? So do your kids attend these schools that you want? I think that's what the question is. Do your kids attend the schools that you want to govern? And if you have kids who are not of high school age, are you committed to them being in the schools? I believe that's the question.
Okay.
30 seconds each.
I am committed to public education. I think it is the pillar and the center of our communities, and I think our public education system needs to thrive. I think every single student, including mine, need to have a good, viable educational system to go to. I do currently send all 4 of my children to public school, either D209 or D91, and I will make every opportunity or every it is my goal to send all of my students through Proviso 209 as well.
Claudia.
I am a proud parent of a PMSA graduate, and thanks to the opportunities that were given at PMSA, because he went through the IB program, he not only is in college, but he's in the honors college, and he is also on the dean's list. Proviso provides an amazing opportunity for every single student, but I believe that not every family can attend a public school. Some need to go to different types of schools, and I believe firmly as a Montessori teacher that there's different ways of learning, and if a family has a need, that need should be filled.
Thank you. David.
I am committed to sending my children to Proviso schools, and that's the primary reason I'm here. I'm working so that the schools can be a viable option, not only for my children, but for Proviso's children. We need to work as a community so to ensure that there are options, that the option, as Ms. Medina said, not every family has the resources to send their children to private schooling, so we must work together as a community to make Proviso prosperous. Thank you.
Sandra.
I'm totally committed to public education. As I said before, I'm a former school board member, school district, Bellwood 88. And I do not have any children that are in school, thank God. They are adults now, but I do have a precocious 4-year-old grandson, and hopefully, I know I won't be around, but hopefully he will be going to Proviso West.
I do not have any kids, but I am a strong believer in every child deserves a great education, and whatever we need to do as a community to make sure that is an opportunity given to them through the Proviso 209 school district, we need to do that so that they can succeed in life.
Thank you. These questions I'll ask together. They pertain to one is about the low test scores across the district, and the other is about your plans to restore the district's relationship with both the community and the feeder school districts that are so important to incoming freshmen and their test scores in District 209.
That's one question.
It's two, but I wanted to combine them because it's 7:32. So I'll try to phrase it in a way that is legible and is reasonable. So the question is, what plan do you have for feeder school district and District 209 relationships? Because that relationship bears upon test scores. I think that's fair. So if each of you can answer, we'll get a minute each, starting with Jon, Sandra Hixson, Jenny, Claudia, and David. Sure.
The way that we restore those relationships is articulation. The superintendents have an articulation group where all the superintendents meet and they align their goals and the different strategies. Our superintendent does not attend that articulation meeting at all. Therefore, ensuring that there's alignment between all the districts is not happening. The other thing that we need to do is we need to have an articulation. I think we need to create an articulation amongst board members so that our visions are aligned. And that means allowing the districts to have, the different district boards to have a relationship so that we can actually see what's happening in our foundational schools, as we like to call them, along with our boards so that we know what we need, what are the deficits, what are the challenges, what are the pluses that each one of them has, so we can prepare better to support students as they go into the district. And there was a second part of the question. Could you repeat that part, please? But articulation is paramount to being
Yeah,
able
about
to.
the test scores.
As far as the test scores. Well, the test scores right now are skewed. We don't have rigor. And we put remedial classes in our district because we don't have enough teachers, and that's the reality. We have larger classroom sizes, 35 students per class. And the test scores also, with the lack of rigor comes a policy, which is a 50% policy. The 50% rule provides that no teacher can give a grade less than 50%. So, and with no attendance policy attached to that, makes it very difficult for the teachers to make sure that the students attend, to make sure that they make up work, because no matter what, they have 50% starting off. And that has decreased the rigor in the district. And what has that done? It's made our test scores plummet. So I think that we need to revise the 50% rule in order for us to establish rigor and accountability. Accountability happens when we are actually analyzing the right kind of data, not by Fs, but by freshmen on track and growth.
Thanks.
One of the goals for David, Jenny, and I is to work very closely with all of our theater schools. We have talked about this at length. We have to become involved. School board members must become involved with our theater schools. You want to look at low test scores, where if a student is coming into high school reading at a 3rd grade level, can you really blame the English teacher that this student is not progressing where it should be? So maybe we should start assessing 8th grade students. So in January, have them take a test and see where they are. Come May, have them repeat that test. Now, if they're really low in math and reading, then they need to be in summer school. And then we'll assess it again. And if they're still low, they need to repeat it. But we have to work with our theater schools in order to address the low test scores.
It doesn't matter. Ladies first.
I think what Sandra said is very important. Our foundation schools are crucial, and what is lacking is a continuity plan between all of our foundation schools and our high school districts. So not only should 209 be working with each foundation school, but each foundation school should also be working in collaboration. One of the key elements of student success and test scores and grades is parent involvement. And I think we have a huge missed opportunity because we're not providing continuity between engaging our parents at the elementary level, where our parents are like, yay, rah, rah, like donuts and bakery sales, but then they fall off when our kids get to middle school and high school. So I think it's important that we figure out a way to engage our parents and keep them committed to provide continuity all throughout high school to keep our parent engagement and increase level.
Thank you.
And I'd like to take that one step further for the continuity plan that Sandra Jenny mentioned. Continuity plan between Proviso high schools and Triton. Because I've heard about the lack of rigor at the high school level when our scholars, our students go into Triton College, they have to take remedial classes, right? And at that point, you're paying out of pocket. And no student wants to pay out of pocket for something that they should have covered in high school. But it's important to restore the relationships with the community or the feeder districts, because that, there's a correlation between the low test scores and the lack of relationships that we have. It's no surprise that Henderson has severed ties with the community, the feeder schools, and we need to reestablish that. In fact, as we've been canvassing and campaigning, we've started planting the seeds with those foundational schools, and we're excited to work with them in the near future.
Thank you. This is a question about a charter school, public option charter school that was proposed by one person in the race. Claudia, you are supportive of it. I'll allow you to answer this first, and then we can go Jenny, John, Ms. Hixson, David, and Ms. Hixson, because I think you were last time. And you'll get 1 minute each for this. And the question is, first, because you have a show of hands, but I trust that you'll say whether or not you support charter schools. I think that's basically the question. Are you for or against public charter schools, and kind of explain your reasoning? And Claudia, you can go first, and then Jenny.
I'm absolutely a proponent of a non-for-profit, public option charter school. There are a lot of diverse learners in our community, and I believe that it is our responsibility to provide opportunities for every single family. There was a survey done to see what the community felt about charters, and 50% of 32,000 calls that were made to different households supported it. And I think that's really important information for us to have, that there are families out there that feel that maybe their needs are not being met. And the other thing is, with my work that I have done as an educational consultant, I have worked with different schools in different communities and in different districts. And my experience as a teacher trainer in those was that the communities thrived because what happened was, with more public options within a district, it brought a lot of accountability. It brought test scores up for all of the schools, and it brought opportunities for diverse learners that needed to have a different type of setting, and their public monies were able to be used. And I believe that that is an important asset for accountability for 209.
Thanks.
I'm running for Proviso High School Township District 209 School Board of Education. I support public schools. I'm not necessarily opposed to charter schools, but I think at this point, I think our focus needs to be on Proviso East and Proviso West, and not taking additional resources that belong in the hands of our public school children. At $17,000 apiece, that would be taken out and given to a charter school to operate and manage, which does not have the same kind of structure of a Board of Education like a public school does. So there's no accountability to the community, and I think at this point, we need to focus our attention on funding the instruction at Proviso East and Proviso West to get our students what they need there.
Thank you. John?
So I'm pro school choice, and I think since the charter schools do not necessarily take the full amount of money away from the actual school, they basically get the funding that is for each student, part of the total amount of money that we get from the state and the Fed. The facilities money stays with the main schools, so it doesn't take any of the funding away. It just allocates it as students go over to that charter school to the education they have there. That individual school will not get any of that facilities money that's already set aside. So I think for the students of 209, a charter school option would be in their best interest.
Thank you, David.
It will siphon off resources that are currently allocated, be poorly allocated to East and West and PMSA, and it will exacerbate an already strained system. We need to refocus our efforts on the current issues, which is our students at the existing 3 facilities, how we can better service them and not redirect any funds. This little project is, for me, just personally, a distraction, and we need to realign on what really matters. Thank you.
I am definitely against charter schools. It does remove our resources. And additionally, with charter schools, you don't have to be a highly certified or qualified teacher. So anyone can go in and teach at a charter school. So I am definitely against charter schools.
Thank you. 3 more questions left and less than 20 minutes, so I think we're okay. This question is about language learning. In a district with a diverse population, how do you plan on increasing parent participation, especially if there is a language barrier? And you each get a minute to answer that, and we'll just start from here on down.
David, Jenny, and I, a couple of weeks ago, had the pleasure of meeting with some of those parents, and they are afraid to speak out. And when they come to board meetings, there is no one there to interpret for them. That is a disgrace. As sitting board members, we would make sure that their voices are heard.
There's very accessible technology for this. This shouldn't even be a hurdle at this point. It's 2023. And we know the demographics of our district are 60% Latino. So this shouldn't even be a hurdle at this point. Every board meeting should have translation devices made for our parents. We also need to make sure that there's translators present in every school and made available for every parent-teacher conference, for every IEP meeting, for every 504 meeting. And we also need to have our students identified when they enter our building. The testing that was once done is not being done as thoroughly from what I've heard. And so we need to identify which students and which parents need those translation services. And then ensure that the resources, as the board, that we have to ensure that the resources are then put in place to provide the materials and the technical aspects they need.
As a Latino, I've lived through this. Growing up, my parents would ask me, I would be in the 4th grade, they'd give me a financial document. It's like, tell me what it says. How would I know? You know, I was 10 at the time, right? So, as Jenny and Sandra mentioned, that we've met with this community, and we need to empower them to speak up, provide them the tools necessary. There are many low-cost options, right? Did you know Google Translate? You could use it as an interpreter, right? I mean, everyone has an interpreter in their pocket then. When we went to CSPL, they had language interpretation devices, right? It was like an iPod that you just had an earpiece and someone spoke, and you can all listen to the translating message. This day and age, with the technology and the resources, this shouldn't be a problem. The district needs to resolve this. Thank you.
I am an immigrant, and I've had language difficulties in my life. I am the first Latina ever elected to the board, and proud of it. I have been really working hard to have these devices provided, but unfortunately, without a board majority that believes that this is an important expense, it has not been made. We have one translation device per each school, which is disgraceful. There used to be translators, which we had brought on board and we had budgeted, along with parent liaisons. They are no longer in the district. We brought resources and programs that have been defunded and taken out of our district, and we need to bring them back. And yes, we need to stand by parents when they can't communicate. I'm a simultaneous translator myself, and I've had to sit by parents that couldn't speak in the meeting and help them. And also, we need to go beyond the classroom, because I'm also an advocate, and I've worked extensively with FASO, with immigrant rights, and made sure that we made our school a safe school for the very first time, and enacted statewide initiatives to make immigrants feel safe in our school.
I think this question kind of goes back to what are the current board's priorities, whether they are really student and parent-centric. The board needs to make language translation a priority and instill that into the superintendent's brain, that this is a priority, and that we're not looking to cut this type of cost. We're not looking to save a few dollars here. Everybody needs to be able to hear, listen, understand, and be responded to in the language that they currently speak if their primary language is not English.
Thank you. 2 more questions at 7:47. So that's what we're going to do. These questions, I suspect, given how seasoned politicians you all should be at this point, that you will be able to answer this in a 2-minute closing statement. So you get 2 minutes after all. And I would just assume that you will cover these questions in your 2 minutes. So I'm going to ask this question, and your answer to it will effectively be your 2-minute closing statement. So the first is, what qualifications set you apart from the other candidates? What do you offer that the others don't? And the second, please don't ask me to repeat these either this time. When people are looking for a new home, they look at schools. For years, Proviso Township has been ranked very low. The main reason is that the administration has set the bar low. Our graduates are ill-prepared for college because of this. How will you improve our schools to better prepare the children, make us proud to be in Proviso, and bring new families to Proviso? And we shall flow into your closing statements. You get 2 minutes each for those. I believe we said they'll go in the reverse order of opening statements, so we'll go from left to right.
It is about integrity. Acting with strong ethics is a priority for us, representing School District 209. David, Jenny, and I have a vision, innovation, and execution. We will never settle for mediocrity. We challenge our ideas of what's possible. With David, Jenny, and I, you can expect integrity, equity, accountability, and more importantly, fiduciary responsibility. We have major issues to address in our communities. We've heard what you have to say about lack of resources, communication, and transparency and accountability are important to you. We hear you. To us, there is no issue too small. As we wrap up tonight, I want to leave you with a quote from Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a few thoughtful citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So thank you for coming out tonight.
Some of the qualities that I possess that I think are lacking on the board is I'm a current parent in the district. And when I started, we had different administration and a different structure, and we had a different trajectory and a different path. So I've witnessed and experienced firsthand how we have had that upward momentum, and we have been on the precipice of success. We have been so close to that next level, and we've seen how easily transition can destruct our district. So what I'm committed to do is to build a foundation that is strong, that can withstand transition. I work in risk management, and I've done that for the last 16 years. I'm able to intervene, thank you, with those very complex interpersonal relationships. And I think it's important to be a good listener and to listen to all those around you. I also think it's okay to disagree, but we have to do that in a respectful way. Sandra, David, and I are committed to acting respectfully and responsibly on the board. And a lot of the ideas that we talked about today, they hinge on a board majority. The only path to regain that board majority is voting Hixson, Barbahen, Ocampo, so that we can work in collaboration with Amanda Grant, who's on the board right now, to get those things happening again in our district. We can't do it without a majority. I like to call it for me personally, the whole losing your neighbors and your friends and the turnover and the transition. I particularly felt that in Forest Park, and I call that fight or flight. And I'm here to fight because our students and our district is worth it and provides us a very special place to live. Thank you.
All right, so as the caboose of the HBO slate, Sandra, Jenny, and I represent fresh perspectives. We act with integrity, and we promise to be accountable in our actions. We strive to work with the community so that the schools can be prosperous. Now, with regards to the skills that I offer, my background, so I was in business econ. I've dealt with finances, supply chain is my forte, and now I'm a data engineer. As a data engineer, I've previously mentioned ideas of artificial intelligence and machine learning, so that is something that is sorely lacking on the board. And Jenny mentioned the Forest Park fight or fight or flight. That is not, that is also felt in Westchester. My family, we've witnessed some of my daughter's friends leave as early as 4th grade. So we are fighting so that the Proviso community can have a viable option for its, in terms of school at the high school level. And so we need to work collaboratively not only with the community but with the feeder schools to establish a sound and functioning school. Thank you.
So there were two parts to the question. The first one was, the qualifications to set us apart. I think that one of the things that is important to stay on the board and to bring on financial experts such as Jon. Jon and I bring educational knowledge and we bring financial accountability. I think that every board member's perspective needs to be respected. And I think that respect needs to return to the board. Because every lived experience brings value, and listening and working cooperatively is important. Providing opportunity for others to speak as well. When we're committed to creating a safe and a secure working environment for all of the teachers, we all win. And I think that that happens when we have access to high quality programming and high quality educators by ensuring that we start having a 95% retention of our teachers. I think it happens when we ensure that the contracts are negotiated properly, returning committees to all of the different processes for the board to ensure that we are on the negotiation teams, that we are listening to our community members, that we are listening to the student, and we bring voice back to the boardroom. We need to look at how we distribute funding and resources effectively, and we can do that. Jon and I can do that collaboratively with other board members if we're looking at data analysis. We also need to look at our disciplinary procedures and how we actually fund the processes for our teachers and our staff to be effective. We need to look at analyzing our student achievement so we can put the right supports in place, and as board members put in programs that support the students and support the teachers so the best teaching and learning practices can occur in our district. We also need to look at our school culture and climate, and that means putting all different supports in place to make sure that there's equity, that all of the resources go to every community, that we listen to each person's voice, and we provide diverse learners an opportunity to succeed.
So to continue what Claudia was saying, I deal with financial data, financial information on a daily basis. Whether it's buying and selling a business, buying and selling or making an investment. I do accounting, look through accounting documents. I also deal with contracts and legal documents on a daily or weekly basis. So I do know how to negotiate. I've negotiated tons of, whether it's real estate transactions, buying or selling product in other countries and getting it back to the US. I have spent a lot of time basically focused on general business skills, which I think lead into being a good board member because I know how to negotiate. I know how to give, and even when I don't get exactly what I want, I know how to compromise. And I think that is one of the things missing from this current board that I would like to instill on the next board that comes into power in 2 months is the respectful negotiation, the respectful compromise, and the respectful coming together to move the school in a positive direction for the kids. Because at the end of the day, we are there for the kids. We're there for a better education for them. We're there to provide them the skills to succeed in life. And if we can do that, working as a team, then as board members, we have succeeded.
Thank you, everybody. We are done with 3 minutes to spare. Give the candidates a round of applause. And give yourselves a round of applause for such a great audience. Just a note before we leave, again, I want to thank Rando and Investor Proviso, Ms. Connie for live streaming this, Chanel for live streaming this. And then a special shout out to Chris Harris out of Forest Park, who, if he hadn't asked me to moderate this would not be happening. So he picked the location and everything else, and then it kind of went from there. So Chris, appreciate you for allowing this to happen for the community, and thanks for coming.